There's a moment happening in studios everywhere right now. You can almost feel the split in the room. On one side, you've got the musicians that came up the regular way, the ones who can tell you exactly how many years it took to nail the bar chords, who remember tracking vocals at 3 a.m. because that's when the tone sounded best. They're watching AI walk into the music industry like it owns the place, and they're asking questions that keeps them up at night. Am I still the author of my own sound? And here's the thing, they're right to be worried, because whether you touch an AI tool or not, their music might already be teaching algorithms how to replicate what it took them years or a lifetime to build. Every riff, every vocal run, every production choice, potentially feeding the machine that could flood Spotify with knockoffs by next Tuesday. Here in part one, we're in the side of the room with the purists, the ones who believe music is a human conversation first and who need to know how to protect what they spent years to build. I'm Chris, and this is AI X Music on the Riff Fitters Network, bringing you part one of building a fortress around your music in the age of AI, before anyone thinks of crossing that line.
Welcome to AI X Music, presented by the Riff Fitters Network.
So here's what you're getting today: context, clarity, and actual steps that you can take away this week to protect your catalog. We're talking about ownership in an era where the rules are being rewritten in real time. You'll understand what copyright actually protects, why it still matters when algorithms can mimic anyone, and how to use it as both a shield and a weapon. We'll cover the lawsuits shaking up the industry right now, walk through registration like we're sitting next to me at a kitchen table, and most importantly, we'll talk about why documenting your creative process is your power. By the end, you'll know exactly how to prove what you made and how you made it, and what to do if someone tries to claim otherwise. So let's get into it. So part one is the ownership question. Let's cut through all the noise for a second. When musicians talk about AI, when they get that look in their eyes, the one that's fear and part exhaustion, it all comes back to one word: ownership. You spend 15 years building your sound, hundreds of songs, each one carries a piece of your life. The breakup that inspired the bridge, the morning you finally cracked that chord progression, the mix session where everything clicked. Your catalog isn't just music, it's an archaeology. It's evidence of who you were at every stage of your life's journey. And then one day, you're scrolling and you hear something that makes you stop cold. Generated music, algorithmic, but it sounds like you. Like your cadence, your production choices, the way you layer harmonies. It's close enough that your friends would think you made it. That feeling keeps us up at night. Look, this isn't theoretical anxiety. In 2024, the RIAA and major labels filed lawsuits against music platforms like Suno and Udio, claiming they use copyrighted recordings without permission to train their models. These cases are still working their way through the courts and might be for years. But whatever happens will shape the next decade of how music gets made, who owns it, and who profits from it. So why does it matter to you, specifically? Because right now the law is playing catch-up. It hasn't fully figured out how to handle AI training on copyrighted work. And in that gap, that space where the rules are being rewritten, understanding what you own and how to prove it is the only leverage you currently have. Copyright isn't some legal, abstract concept. It's your proof that you existed before the algorithm learned to sound like you. And that matters more now than it ever has. Without registration, you still technically own the copyright the moment you create something. But in the US, you cannot file a lawsuit for infringement unless the work is registered. And if you register after the infringement happens, you lose access to the statutory damages and attorney fees. So you have to also prove financial harm, which is way harder to do. Part two, let's talk about the three things that you actually own. Let's talk about what copyright actually protects. Think of it as building a fortress around your work, but you need to know what the walls are made of. There are three pillars here, three distinct rights that together give you control over your own music. Number one is the composition rights. This is the song itself, the melody, the harmony, the lyrics. It exists independently of any performance or recording of it. Think about Respect. Otis Redding wrote and recorded it first, but Aretha Franklin's version is the one that lives in everybody's head. The composition is the blueprint, the idea, the core of what makes your song that song. Whether it's on a napkin, a voice memo, or sheet music, if you wrote it, you own it. Second are your sound recording rights. This is your specific performance and your production. Your voice, your guitar tone, the way you mix the drums, that weird reverb you spent 3 hours dialing in. Two artists can perform the same composition and create two totally different sounding recordings, And the right protects the captured instance, the artifact of your creative content in that moment. Third are your performance rights. These control how your music gets heard in public. Whether it's streaming, radio, live venues, the coffee shop on the corner, organizations like ASCAP, BMI, and SESAC help manage this stuff. But it all flows from your ownership of the composition and recording in the first place. Now here's the thing that matters. AI hasn't knocked these pillars down yet. The law still recognizes these rights. And for purists, musicians who want nothing to do with AI stealing their music, at least without attribution, this is your defensive advantage. But, and this is crucial, these rights only fully protect you and give you leverage if you can prove ownership. That's where registration comes in, because saying I made this isn't enough. You need a physical timestamp, evidence, a paper trail that predicates whatever comes after. Think of it like this. If someone builds a house that looks exactly like yours, same layout, same style, same vibe, but they build it first, legally, they've got the claim. Copyright is how you prove you were there first, that you planted the flag. And in a world where AI can analyze your catalog and start producing tracks that sound like you in seconds, that timestamp is everything. Part 3, you're already in the dataset. Here's something uncomfortable. Even if you've never touched an AI tool, even if you refuse on principle, your music might already be in the system. Millions of songs have been scraped to train these models, some legally licensed, some not so much. The lawsuits that I mentioned earlier, they're happening because these platforms allegedly used copyrighted recordings without asking. They just took them, fed them to the algorithm, taught the machine how to mimic styles that make music that sound like you, and they argue along the same lines as previous lawsuits, such as Google when they scanned millions of books for Google Books. In the end, the court agreed that that was transformative, and Google Books was allowed to go forward. So while the courts figure all this out, your music could be becoming part of the training data. And right now, it definitely comes down without attribution if you don't fight back. So what do you do with all that? You can't untrain a model. You can't reach into the algorithm and pull your music back out. But here's what you can do. Register everything. Think of it as locking the gate every song, every recording, every demo, all your stems. Get it timestamped, get it documented. Create a legal record that says this existed on this date and at this time, and I made it. And don't even stop at the finished tracks. Save your scratch demos, screenshot your lyrics, export your stems, keep the original project files, and document your revisions. Every little artifact of your creative process is potential evidence if someone tries to replicate your style and tries to claim ownership over it. I know it sounds tedious and bureaucratic and you're just some cool musician guy, but in this era the documentation is your proof of life. It's the difference between saying, that sounds like me, and being able to say, that is me, and here's the evidence. Copyright registration creates a public record with a date attached. That date is your anchor. If someone releases something later that copies your work, you can point to that registration and say, I was here first, and legally that matters. It's not about being litigious or paranoid. It's about creating a record that your creativity existed in this form at this time. And when AI is built on mimicking what already exists, that record is the only thing between you and algorithmic replication. So if you really don't like AI, don't lay down in the face of it. Fight back. Now, part 4, how to actually do the registration. Let's get tactical about it, because registration isn't really as complicated as it sounds, but there are a few things you need to know to do it right. Again, I'm not a lawyer, so consult a lawyer if you have any real questions. First step is you're going to head over to copyright.gov and create an account. The interface is utilitarian at best, but it's not going to be a problem. It does what it needs to do. Step 2, you're going to want to choose register your work, and then pick the type of registration you're doing. This is where people get tripped up, so pay attention for a sec. If you're registering the song itself, which means the melody, the lyrics, the structure, you're going to want to choose musical composition. If you're registering your specific recording, the performance, the production, and the mix, choose sound recording. If your songs are unpublished, meaning they're not yet released anywhere, they're not streaming, they haven't been sold, and they're not even publicly posted, you can file a group registration for unpublished works. That's $85 total for up to 10 songs. They're the same authors, same claimants, and they all have to be original. And you can bundle them both, the composition and the recording, in one shot. So that's going to save you money. Once those songs go live, the second they hit Spotify, SoundCloud, or YouTube, they're considered published, and that group option is gone. Now, this is where people get confused. For published songs, you can't just throw your whole album into one cheap registration bundle, unless it's being released as one cohesive work. So here's the key. All tracks must be released together on the same date as part of one album. The album has to have the same authors and claimants for every track. You register under the group registration for works on an album option. It's still $65 total, not per song. So, if you have 10 unreleased songs, that's $85 as a bundle. 10 songs on one album released at once, that's $65 as a group. 10 singles released separately, that's $65 each. So the big picture here is if you file before release, if you can, once your tracks go public, your flexibility and the cash are going to go, your flexibility is down and the cost is way up. Next, you're going to want to upload the actual physical material. That's your song. MP3 or WAV files are going to work best. If you've got sheet music included, lyric sheets, stems, project files, throw it all in there. The more documentation, the stronger your claim will be. Here's why. If someone ever challenges your ownership, or if you end up in a situation where you need to prove that the work is yours, that metadata and those supporting materials are going to become your evidence. They show your creative process and demonstrate that you didn't just claim ownership, you actually built the thing from the ground up, and you can show its individual pieces. Step 4 is paying the fee. Submit, save your confirmation number, and that number is going to be your receipt. The timestamp helps save your work, and the timestamp is your legal foundation. Registration may take months or even up to a year, but your music is going to be protected from the original application date, so do it as soon as you possibly can. Now, I do want to be clear about something. Registration does not automatically mean your music is suddenly locked away somewhere where nobody can touch it. People can still listen, share, cover your songs. AI can still scrape it when it's in public. But it means that if someone does cross that line, if they copy it, if they mimic it, or use your work in a way that's not allowed by you, you have standing to do something about it. You have a sword, not just a shield. And it also means when the rulings on AI use come in, you'll be prepared. So registration isn't just about protection, it's also about enforcement. It's the difference between being able to say that's mine and being able to actually do something about it. So part 5 is going to be on that topic. When you register your work, you're not just defending it, you're claiming power. You're able to fight back. You can pursue damages if someone infringes. You can join class action lawsuits that are already in motion at the moment if platforms misuse your music. You can demand licensing fees. You can negotiate from a position of strength. You're not a victim waiting to, something bad to happen. You're a rights holder with leverage now. And in a world where AI can mimic style in seconds, where your sound can be replicated without your involvement, proving your humanity is not any longer nice to have, it is your edge. Because the thing is, algorithms can analyze patterns, they can replicate structures, they can mimic tone, but they cannot prove authorship. They can't show the messy human process that led to a specific creative choice. You can. That documentation, those STEM revisions, those late night voice memos, that's what separates you from the machine. That's your proof of life. Copyright at its core is about control. It's about saying, I made this thing, it came from me, and I decide what happens to it. So in the age of AI, that control is more valuable than ever, because if you don't claim it, somebody else will, or is already trying to do it. All right, so let's bring it all home. Today we talked through why copyright still matters, even when it feels like the rules are changing every day. We broke down the 3 pillars that protect your music: composition rights, sound recording rights, and performance rights. We talked about how your work might already be in an AI training dataset, and why registration is the only way to prove that you were there first. We walked step by step through the registration process, and we reframed copyright not just as defense, but as offense, as power, and as leverage. In the next episode, we're flipping to the other side of the studio, the AI explorers, the musicians who are experimenting with these tools. How do you create safely? How do you disclose it? How do you claim ownership over hybrid works? We'll get into all of that. And if you're here because you're a music purist that hates AI, I humbly invite you to take a look at part 2. Maybe you'll never accept AI, but at least you'll have a better understanding of what your new musical competitors are wielding in their arsenal. Now, before we go, I'd like you to think about one question, and if you're feeling it, please drop a comment or send me a voice note with your take. If AI gets good enough to mimic your style perfectly, so well that even you couldn't tell the difference, what does that mean for the future of artistry? Does your value shift from the sound itself to something else? Or do you see this as a first step towards the downfall of music as a whole? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Please follow and subscribe for more content that helps artists like you in the ever-changing landscape of technology and AI. Thanks for watching AIX Music. We'll see you in part 2.
That was AIX Music, presented by the Rift Fitters Network. Thank you for listening, and please remember to subscribe for weekly updates that keep musicians and music industry creators like you informed in the new era.